All right, welcome everybody to the first edition of Leavenworth Times Coaches Corner. I'm Jim Zimmerman, if you don't know who I am. Faculty athletic rep here. I teach in the business department. I teach sport management classes. So we'll just get started. Did everybody see the camel that was on campus today?
No.
No? Must have been camouflage. All right. Not bad, huh? Not bad? All right. That was off of Laffy Taffy in the coach's office the other day. So, I'll give you some dates. What's happening today? Lansing High School is playing DeSoto soccer. Leavenworth has soccer at Turner tonight. If I ever mess these up, ADs, holler at me. But it's a big week. Tomorrow is the big day. Lansing versus Leavenworth football. Homecoming at Leavenworth. Should be awesome for the new league, the UKC. UKC, right? Or UKL? UKC, yeah. Then Saturday, Lansing has tennis at Topeka West. Leavenworth has volleyball at Shawnee Mission North. You got any volleyball going on at Lansing? I didn't see it. Okay. And then our homecoming here was Sterling. So we're going to hear the football coaches talk today. We'll start with our athletic director at St. Mary, Coach Miller. He can give us any updates on what's happening.
What's happening with what?
With St. Mary Athletics.
First of all, happy St. Vincent de Paul Day.
Yeah.
Some of you are looking around like, what? St. Mary is a Vincentian school. That means that we have learned and we reflect the teachings of St. Vincent de Paul. Today is his day, so there's a big celebration over in the library at 11 o'clock, and again, some of you high school coaches, we have, when I say we're a Vincentian school, what St. Vincent de Paul was all about was the poor, trying to help the poor, feed the poor, clothe the poor, take care of the sick, and things like that. 98% of all the students here at St. Mary have some sort of financial aid. It is in our mission that we help educate the poor. Of that 98%, I'd say probably half of them are full Pell. And that means they have a 0 EFC, estimated family contribution. These families have very little money, and yet they still find a way to send their kids to a place where, it's to live in the dorms and pay tuition and all your fees and pay for your food. It's $38,000. But yet these people are finding a place for them. And our coaches work hard. Our coaches work hard to take care of these kids and to obviously educate them for lives beyond college. So kudos to all of our coaches and our staff and the people here at St. Mary that reflect the Vincentian way. I don't have a whole lot to talk about other than that. St. Mary Athletics, we are still growing. We're still looking for growth. Possibility of tennis starting up here probably within the next, if Sister has her way, probably in the next year. But we're working on it. We are standing at 21 sports right now. I think we're one of the top in the KCAC with offerings of sports. Ottawa has like 36 sports right now, so that's a little bit overkill for me, but we're still looking for growth. So far this year, we've done a pretty darn good job of performance. Football ran into a buzzsaw last weekend, but they beat Tabor, first game of the year. That was a huge win. I'm sure Coach will talk about it a little bit. Volleyball's off to a good start. They're 2-0 in conference play. Cross country and track, or just cross country, I guess, is running their little hearts out. Seems like every weekend. So, things are going well. Our swim team actually had their first meet last week. Again, don't really care about the results at this point in time with the swim team. They're just in they're not in the embryonic stage anymore. They are actually alive and kicking, but there will be more news on that in the spring, I guess. Facility-wise, we continue to look for growth on facilities. We just possibly acquired a little bit of money to pump into the Ryan Sports Center, try to get that thing upgraded. We're working on expansion possibly of the McGilly. We don't know yet for fitness center type thing. There are lots of ideas out there. There's not a lot of money. So once we get all these ideas on paper, then we'll start trying to promote it and get that cash so we can starting on a facility campaign to make things even that much better. The KCAC is growing. Our conference is now at 13 members with the addition of Avila this year. We are looking for a 14th. I have no idea who that would be. I know that there are some schools out there that have interest in belonging to the KCAC, but who knows how that'll all shake down. But I do know that 14 will occur within the next couple of 2 or 3 years. It has to. You can't really. 13 just doesn't quite work. You got to have an even number. We are one of the top conferences in the country. Our commissioner does a great job of promotion of the KCAC and the policies. There's a lot of conferences across the country that are looking at our policies and saying, wow, we need to start doing things like that. We don't restrict financial aid anymore like they once did 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's all straight up NAIA policies, and it's whatever you can manage to do at the school level. So with that, any questions from anyone? I know a majority of the audience is our own people, but I'll field questions from you as well. Phone-in questions? Cool, thanks.
I do have some scores from this week. Volleyball did beat Sterling this week on the road 3-0. So like Coach said, they are 2-0 and first place in the conference. I think they're overall somewhere around 11-8, something like that. So doing well. Soccer hosted Kansas Wesleyan last night, 2 nail-biters, 1-0 and 2-0. We fell, but strong showing. Kansas Wesleyan is one of the stronger programs, I think, in soccer in our league. So looking to have a good soccer year. All right. Next up, we'll have veteran coach from Leavenworth High. We'll wait for Coach Brown. We won't put him on the spot yet. We'll let Coach Littrell speak about their football season. I saw him on television last night. I'll let him speak about that, but was on 41 Action News. Had some good news for Leavenworth High football. So, Coach Littrell.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here at St. Mary's and speak. And you were talking about expanding the KCAC. Maybe we could put KICAC in there. We could put an Iowa school in there, so I can see my son's team play a little bit more. My son's the head coach at Waldorf University, which is an NEI school in northern Iowa, and every one of their away games are in North Dakota or South Dakota. So kind of hard to go and watch them, especially during this season. But anyway, he does a good job there, and I understand. He was at Doane for 4 or 5 years, and now he's been a head coach at an NEI college, a private school, and I understand all of what you all have to do to get kids and to recruit kids and put together packages to make it affordable for those kids to be able to come to college and to compete at the collegiate level. And I was just talking with Coach Osborne. A couple years ago, the JUCOs in Kansas went to unlimited scholarships, so they didn't have to have any Kansas kids. And used to be those JUCO rosters were just dotted with Kansas football players, and I really think that that's going to help NAIA football in the state and in the area. The fact that of what the community colleges have done. I'm a veteran coach. This is my 42nd year. I started back in 1976 in a town called St. Joseph, Missouri, Benton High School. And so I was there 6 years and then had the pleasure of being able to get hired at Olathe South in 1982 as an assistant and stayed on there for 27 years. Became a head coach, was there for 10 years, and then had the bright idea to move to Texas and be an assistant coach down there. And it was a great experience. And no offense to Coach Osborne, but I found out that the further I went south, the dumber I got to know about football. And if you weren't, and they have a lot of pride. My son was a coordinator there as well, and I respect what they do. It was a great experience. I was there 5 years, and then had the opportunity to move back into the area and came to Leavenworth, and have enjoyed I've been here 6 years. This is my 6th season, so I enjoy my time here. It's a great school, great administration. They all work hard and do a fine job. Unfortunately, Mr. Vanek couldn't be here today. He had a death in his family, so he couldn't be here today, but I'm definitely here to represent Leavenworth High School. A little bit about our season right now. We're at 1-3, and we played a team last week that we had pretty good success with, and our running back had a breakout game of 353 yards on the ground and an 80-yard touchdown return, 7 touchdowns for Jahan Bird, and was selected to be the Hy-Vee Channel 41 Player of the Week, and also through the Greater Kansas City Football Coach Association. And Jahan's a fine young man, and enjoy coaching him, and he's a very established baseball player, and spends a lot of time playing baseball and trying to work baseball and football and basketball into his summer is tough. And so, because he's what we want at Leavenworth High School, and that's 3-sport athletes. And it's tough anymore to get those kids to really want to be a 2 or 3-sport athlete. They all want to specialize. And it's ironic that all the research, and you hear all the Division I coaches talking, like Nick Saban, we want 2-sport athletes. And it makes sense. And so for a young man to be a 3-sport athlete in this time is awesome. And we really relish that fact and cherish the fact that we have some 3-sport athletes. As far as this week's game against Lansing, first thing I wanted to know was who in the world scheduled homecoming when we play a rival like Lansing, because it's a tough week anyway. And then you have the homecoming stuff going on and everything. Well, and the way our schedule worked out, it was either this game or the last game. And I said, well, let's do the last game. And but no, it was this game. And I've known Coach Brown here, and Coach has done a great job with Lansing. And I watch them on film, and it's going to be a tough battle. They're big up front, and what they do on offense and defense is special, and it's hard to defend and hard to prepare for. So they've done a great job, and our kids, coming off a win, and especially, we started off 0-3, and we're a very young football team. We have our secondary and our skill kids we're starting a lot of sophomores and first-year juniors, and it's a work in progress. But they're fine young men, and they work hard, and they come to practice willing to learn, and so. That's part of it. My philosophy has always been, I want to build relationships with young men, and I want to try to get them ready to go on, and whether it's to go to college or go in the military or go in the workforce, to understand that there is commitment and there's dedication and there's going to be adversity, and you got to face adversity and get through it and wake up in the morning and get ready to go back to work. And I talk to our players a lot about tough love because I'm old school. I mean, this is my 42nd year, and I'm not, I'm old school with things, and I talk about tough love. But I use my son as a reference, because he was a handful growing up, and that's hard to believe, being my son, that he'd be a handful, but he was a handful, and just getting him on the right track and getting him going, and now for him to be a head college football coach is, it's a proud moment for me. And my dad's a retired plumber, electrician, and when I was in high school and I said I wanted to be a high school coach, he goes, you're never going to make any money. And I go, I understand that, but I want to coach. I lived across the street from the high school, and my best friend's dad was the head football coach, and I can remember going in there, watching film in the summer, and here I'm going, man, that's got to be a pretty good job. They sit in here in the summer and they watch film, and I said, that's got to be a pretty good job, and then that was my goal, and to have that to reach my goal and to have that opportunity. And then when my son decided to go into coaching, my dad made the comment, he goes, that's got to be the highest compliment that a son can make to his dad, that he wants to go into his profession. He goes, I had 3 sons, and not one of them wanted to be electricians or plumbers. And I go, no, because it was tough in the summer when it was 110 and we had to go rough in a house, and it was 180 inside that house, and that isn't any fun. But and I do look at coaching the way it is. I don't feel like I work. I feel like every day, I don't look at it as a job. I look at it as the best profession there is. And I've got friends that are executives and make all this money, and they were all college football players, and they go, we would give anything to do what you do. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you paychecks. And they laugh. And I had an opportunity to do a couple football camps, and I got to hire some of those guys to come in and work, and they really enjoyed it. But anyway, again, I want to thank University of St. Mary's. You guys do an awesome job. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak, and thank you very much.
I was going to ask if you want to talk about your game plan, but you slipped out a little bit early.
We want to be able to snap the ball.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay. All right. Want to congratulate Coach Brown, first-year head coach. I think you were junior high coach when I was starting refereeing here, and we met that way a time or two. But so congrats. It's awesome to work through the system and be rewarded. Coach Mattingly got a good guy, I know that. So we'll hear about your half of the homecoming night next.
I just want to thank St. Mary's for hosting us and having us up here and a chance to talk. And I also like to thank you guys for hosting the summer camps that we were able to go to and practice against Piper and Park Hill and give our kids a good competitive look during the summer to give us a chance to see where we were competitively and where we needed to improve before we got the season started. So I'd like to thank them. And it was a well-run camp, one of the better local camps I've definitely been to as an assistant. And as he said, I'm first-time head coach here. I've been around football most of my life. As he was mentioning, I started off while I was playing high school football, being like a clock runner for the youth league and working with officials and things like that. And then eventually when I got into college, I started coaching youth football. And then so much like Coach Littrell said, it was something I always wanted to do as soon as I kind of fell in love with the game as a high school player. I wasn't good enough in high school to play in college, but I kept going anyway, my love for the sport wouldn't go away, and I agree with Coach Littrell. It's the best job that anybody could ask for. I don't care what the paycheck says when I get home. Like you said, it's not a job. It's what we do, and I love doing it, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. And I'm sure we all have opportunities to take higher paying jobs, but we choose to do this because this is what we love. Like I said, just to talk about Lansing, this is my first year. I'd been there for 4 years as the offensive coordinator under Coach McCall, and he had started changing a lot of the culture there. And so when he decided to go on to a different place and gave me the opportunity to take the job, and I'd like to thank Mr. Mattingly for giving me the opportunity, because this is something I've been preparing for since I was 16 years old, to take a head coaching job. I was able to take what Coach McCall had started and then try to add my own flavor and philosophies and things to that. And we're trying to get it on the right track. The first thing we had to do was get more kids in the weight room over the summer and have them realize that winning football is hard. And so it takes hard work, and hard work doesn't start when you show up to practice in August. It starts in the weight room in June and July, and then you also build camaraderie and teamwork and trust in each other. And we only do that if we all work out in the same place together at the same time as teammates. And so that was my big goal in the summer. And it definitely had gotten better than it had been the last 4 years I'd been here. I think we had the biggest numbers in the weight room attendance-wise this year since I've been here. So that was a good step in the right direction. Much like, and a lot of what Coach Littrell said applies to our team too. We start off 1-3. We have a lot of young guys playing. We had a lot of inconsistencies due to that. I think we counted of our 22 starters, over half of them are juniors or sophomores. And so our senior starters are definitely the minority. So we're still learning a lot about how to play varsity football consistently. And we see that in their games. And the one game we were able to, play fairly mistake-free football was against Baser, and that's the one where we were able to come back and win. And our kids showed a lot of toughness and resiliency, and I kind of attribute a lot of that to their commitment in the summer to each other, to where we got down 13-7, and with 2 minutes left in the game, we were able to go down, score, kick the extra point with 40 seconds left on the clock to take the lead, and then on defense hold that out for the win. So that was a big win for us. That's probably our second biggest rivalry, next to the one we get to play this Friday at Leavenworth. And Leavenworth is always a special game for these kids. As I was telling Luke, it's much like when I was at Blue Valley High School as a player at Olathe South. I was there as well as an assistant coach. It's like an inter-district game. That's how closely related. It's like when Olathe South played Olathe East, or when I was at Blue Valley and we played Blue Valley North, because the communities are just so intertwined. These kids know each other since they were young. They played with each other, against each other, in probably every sport they played in. So there's a lot of familiarity, and they move back and forth from between the middle schools and the high schools and things like that. And so there's a lot of there's a big personal level with the kids as far as this rivalry goes. And I know our kids are fired up about it this week, especially since Leavenworth beat us last year. And so I was able to be here for the first one. The first two games were both kind of blowouts each direction, but the last two games have been really close, and I have a feeling that's exactly the way this rivalry is going to play out from here on out. Like I said, I think we're very similar teams. Coach Littrell, obviously, with Jahan Bird, very special kid, sophomore, right? Junior, okay. Either way, that kid's pretty good. We're going to have to find a way to wrangle him up. And they also have a big line. They play physical, and watching them, it was a lot like watching us, to where they're a lot better than a lot of their score showed, because of the youth and some of the things that they've made just like we did, make a couple mistakes here and there that make the score look worse than it was. But they've been competitive in every game that I've seen. And so, we're ready to move on. We're, halfway point of the season, 1-3. We're ready to move on to the second half. Of course, first step is coming into Leavenworth tomorrow and competing and just trying to get better in everything we do. Offense, defense, special teams, and even all the intangibles, working together, character, showing up in the classroom, all those things like that, trying to get a holistic approach to our football program. And as that stuff builds up, we'll start seeing the results we want. But as of right now, we're focusing on the fundamentals and getting better and better at every little thing we do, and hopefully that starts showing up on the scoreboard sooner or later. So, I don't have much else to say, so, yeah.
You speak about some of your leaders, maybe, who's
Okay.
some of your top contributors that
like statistically, we don't have anybody that stands out necessarily, if you're asking like for that. But our leadership, you know, we've got 4 guys that were elected captains after the summer. And our number one guy probably is Connor McQuillan. He's our what we call our B back. He's our primary running back. That's behind the quarterback. We have 3 backs. He is the one that's probably bought in the most to the new program that we're trying to sell. And he's really been a really good mouthpiece for not just me, but for the assistant coaches and the running back coach. He's a positive leader. And he really works to get the kids when we do go down in games to keep them focused and keep them on the task instead of getting down on ourselves, which is very typical of young kids that are playing and things like that. Jordan Bridget was another kid that was voted as a captain. He had the most days in the weight room. He worked his butt off all summer. He's our most vocal leader. He's not afraid to talk and address the team. And so he's kind of our hype guy. You'll see him. He's the one out there leading our, cheers and chants and when we run out on the field and stuff like that. Trey Pledger is our another senior captain. He's a very intense individual and he is very competitive. And we like to see that because we want kids to model that intensity and competitive in practice. And he's one of those kids that, he doesn't take that rep off like a lot of kids see. And he's a good role model for all the sophomores and juniors we have playing when he's still lighting it up in practice, no matter what the drill is. And then Brett Pine, which is a senior captain, a very blue-collar work ethic type kid. He's not very big. He's not very fast. He plays both offensive and defensive line for us. But he's just a gritty kid, and again, it's just a good model for our kids that this smaller guy can play both lines and fairly effectively too, and it's a good example for our kids that maybe if I'm not the biggest and I'm not the fastest, I can replace that with tenacity and effort and a motor, and that gets me where I want to be on the field. So those are our 4 guys that we have leadership wise. So. Mm-hmm.
All right. What's our game plan tomorrow?
Me and Coach Litch will talk about it later.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we'll finish up with Coach Osborne. St. Mary's in the middle there. Season as well. Homecoming with a big opponent, Sterling, coming into town.
Thank you. So I'll start off. How do you make a tissue dance? One good joke deserves another one. With cold season coming up, you put a little boogie in it and make it dance, right? Okay. So, anyways, we do have,
Mine was better.
Yeah. We do have homecoming coming up. We're excited about that. We feel like we've got a very good football team this year. We're still learning a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about our team and who we are. We've had a interesting and somewhat difficult, I think, spring and fall, summer to get to this point where we are now, and we're working through those. But that Tabor game was a great day. We had a number of family members of Cristianos come out on Saturday. They were there to see that, and we opened our season up. I felt like on a high note. We played very well. We played tough against the run. Probably the maybe second or third time in the history of St. Mary that we've been extremely tough on the run. Those teams have all fared very well. So we feel good about where we are. We've got to get some things cleaned up communication-wise, and I feel like that's what it is in the secondary, so that we're not seeing that ball fly over our heads, that we're knocking that thing down and we're getting interceptions back there. We do have some bright spots even there where we're not doing well right now. We have a young man from just down the road, and he's a Leavenworth kid. He went to Pleasant Ridge, and he was our option quarterback and starting quarterback for 3 years. We developed him in the program. We knew he was a high-end guy from the start, high academic guy, hard worker. He's up over 200 pounds now, and he's leading the nation in interceptions with 5 in 3 games. He had 3 in the first one, 1 in each of the second one. And so we've got a young man from the local area that's done extremely well back in that secondary that we've struggled a little bit, and we're looking at him to step up and be a leader this week and moving on. He's only a sophomore, so we're excited about that as well. Nick Holmes, very similar to the way Kenny Nez came in and had 7 interceptions as a sophomore. Nick Holmes has done a lot of the same stuff and really has taken over the defense a little bit. we do, like I said, have 7 games left. Our schedule is 5 home and 5 away, so we played 10 total this year. We elected not to play an 11th game with the season starting up so early and the bye week being limited opponent options. So the first time we've had 10 games, I think, since 2010. It's been a while, but we, like I said, we're really excited about moving forward with it. I think this week in practice we'll see how it goes today, might have been our best week, coming off of a down day last Saturday at Avila, and just didn't play well. The fact of the matter, we didn't play well. We felt like special teams was going to be the benefit and the options that we had to make a difference in that game, and we didn't get to do that, and we didn't do that very well. And so we're going back and we're fixing those so we can use more of our punt team and punt return teams and extra points and field goals and things like that. And that's the nature of good football, is that the ball goes back and forth, and you don't just see the ball drive down and score, drive down and score, drive down and score. You have to play special teams. You have to play it well. And once you get in the flow of a game, that's when you can exploit teams at times. The good football teams know how to flow the game, play field position, and wait for their opportunities to strike. And I felt like we did a good job of that versus Tabor. We were tough on defense, and we played well offensively. We scored 13 in that one, but we went into the fourth quarter of that game up 10. We went in the fourth quarter of Ottawa up 7. So we know we can play with anybody. We know we have a good setup there, and I think the other thing we're looking at is that we're figuring out who we are. A lot of the guys that are playing right now are just kind of coming together. We do have, I want to say, 25 or 26 juniors in the program. We're looking at a very large senior class next year with about 12 seniors right now. So that's pretty exciting as well. Now, those guys are ready to play right now. It's not like we're looking towards next year by any means. We've got some good young guys playing. We've got a great junior class that we're building and molding, but we're still working on that. At quarterback, I'll kind of go down the list. We have some great players. Drew Cortez has been a starter for 4 years. This is his senior year. He's working to get back to some of his success that he's had, and we expect him to play at a high level as he's done before. He's already done it. So he's kind of working through his issues right now, and I think it's just a matter of timing and him getting a little bit more comfortable. We're asking him to do some things that he's never done. He ran the ball very well versus Avila. He had 30 yards plus, and right now he's plus yardage for only the second time in his career rushing. So I think that'll be a benefit as the season goes on. At running back, we're deep. We've got about 5 guys that touch the football. 2 very big guys back there go back and forth with Nick Roller and Sadiq Wilson. Ryler Esteban plays for us quite a bit. He was an 8-man kid out of Missouri that's only a sophomore right now. Both Roller's a sophomore and Wilson's a freshman. And Wilson's leading our team in rushing with over 5 yards a carry, and Roller's averaging almost 7, I believe, and he's just a sophomore. So we're young there. We're deep there. The O-line has taken a hit a little bit. We've lost 2 senior linemen due to injuries for the season. That's tough, but we've got guys. We train them up. We move them in, and mentally you try to get past that. Losing a 4-year starter at center is really a tough deal. And losing his buddy, and they came up together the other day in practice with a knee injury, that's going to be a tough one to overcome. But like I said, we're training those guys up, but we'll have some older guys up there playing. We can go big still. We have 300-pound linemen up front and some big backs, and so we feel comfortable about that. The receiver position looks good as well. We have Brian Barnhart, who, again, has played every year. He's a redshirt junior. He's probably our leader down there by the nature of knowing the offense and the way he plays football. He's a very, very tough kid, a Kansas City, Kansas kid, a Bishop Ward kid, and has done very, very well in our program. And then we brought in another guy, Jordan Hill, has done very well. We've got some other guys mixing in there, some developmental guys and some transfers that have done well, and that I expect to see higher end as the season goes on. At tight end, we have a guy named Jordan Longoria who's been here 2 years, and we've been able to retain him and develop him. He wears number 1, and he's a good football player. So that's kind of how our offense shakes out, and older guys pretty much for the most part, but also with some eligibility in front of them to play, which is nice. Defensively, we've got a lot of new faces, and there's some names over there, and we try to play deep. We probably play 25, 30 guys on defense. It's starting to weed down a little bit more to where we're playing less guys as these weeks go on due to injuries or any number of things. You got to show up to class. Guys don't go to class, they don't play football. So we've suspended some guys due to not showing up and things like that. You think you don't have those issues in college, but you absolutely do. You have parents and you have guys not wanting to show up. As a matter of fact, with more free time in college, you have more opportunity to miss the boat. And so holding those guys accountable is, I think, is a big deal. And so we're still going to try to play deep, but we may not play as deep as we'd like to here and there because of suspensions and whatnot. But hopefully we don't have to deal with too much of that. We did last week. We're past it. We're going to move on. We're fresh and clean. But the linebacking core, I think, is as good and as deep as it's ever been at this campus since my 13th year here as a player, as coach. And so I've seen guys come through, and I would say we have about 5 guys in this linebacking core right now that could have started. You know, any 3 of those guys could have started as the core in years past. So we've got a great linebacking core. We play about 10 guys on the D-line, another thing we're extremely excited about. And I think that's the nature of why we're playing tough against the run. We've got a great linebacking core. We've got big physical guys up front, and we're deep. They don't have to take 80 snaps in a game. They take about 25, and we get another one in there, and he's ready to go fresh, and he's playing against an offensive lineman that's taking every rep over there. So, again, that's part of my confidence in the way we're playing schematically and those guys that are doing that down there. And then talking about the secondaries, we started out, they haven't played a whole lot together. Elijah Creighton played for us last year. He's starting corner for us. Nick Holmes, we moved him from offense to defense. He was a safety and a quarterback in high school, and we moved him to from offense to defense, and he started, I think, 8 games last year. And you saw the flash that you see with first-year starters last year, and you saw the greatness. Yeah, I think he had 2 interceptions last year, but this year he's really put it together. He's been more physical. He's put on the weight. He's done everything necessary to be a really, really good KCAC football player. And then across from him, a young man from Johnson County named Trey Espy, who's done very well. He's a great communicator. We just need to get guys on the same page back there. And then a number of corners we have working in, about 3 or 4 guys. But those 3 guys are going to be fitted in there, and they've done really, really well. Any questions? Anything about our?
About Sterling, what do you expect from Sterling?
They won the conference last year. They're a good football team. They're going to come in. They're going to play good football. I feel like we're going to be a better football team. I do feel like we have the better football team. When I did against Avalon, I did against Ottawa, and I feel that way every week. We have to play better football. The Spires absolutely have to play better and do the things that I've talked about thus far. But I think it's college football, and guys have scholarships. They're going to have great players, and Sterling's got some great players. But I feel great about where we stand and how we match up this week. And if you watch our film, you're going to say, hey, let's throw the ball early and let's throw it over the top. I think you're going to see that quite often versus Sterling. We've got to stop that, and we're smart enough to figure out, get back and get that ball. I don't think they're going to have a lot of success within the tackles running the ball. I would like to see them run it between the tackles a lot on Saturday. So if they're watching, please run the ball inside the tackles. We'd like to see that, and because that's our strength. And they're going to watch film, and it's not going to happen. And they've got a good receiver that they're going to run down the field, but one guy can only run so many downfield routes. And so we've just got to be smart. We've got to play well, and we've got our opportunities. They're right there in front of us. And like the matchup, we've got a lot of alumni coming back for homecoming, and it's a good setup.
1:30?
1:30 kickoff. I think festivities started at 11 or something like that with all of our homecoming and alumni. And like I said, there's a lot of guys coming back excited for this one.
Hey, Coach, question. Seems like the first couple games, your biggest opponent has been the officiating. How do you keep you guys focused so that doesn't?
Well, the Spires got to play great football. The Spires got to play better. It's another one of those things you don't worry about. Yeah, I can't control what that guy does and how he throws the flag. I talked to those guys before the game versus Avila, and when things we talked about, some of it got done, some of it didn't. And I take some solace in knowing that some of it did get done. I'll take that. But if you're worried more about the officials and whatnot, and I appreciate that, from an outside perspective looking in, but if our guys are focused on the Zebras and they want to wear those shirts, we're going to be in trouble. And so we try to get them to focus because you hear a lot of that. You got guys in uniforms trying to be coaches and officials. We're not going to be very good on the football field. So we're trying to correct a lot of that from within. We have to play better football, and it goes back to just fundamentals of the game, how to catch a pass and how to run with the football and keep it tucked and being fundamentally sound. And I think we kind of have a mantra in the program that officials will never beat you. In 85 offensive snaps and 85 defensive snaps, and another number of special team snaps, probably 40 there, the officials are not going to beat you with 10 flags. And one of the things I feel like is extremely overrated, and I've said this a number of times, if you look at the top 25 teams in penalties against, meaning those that are most penalized, a lot of those guys are in the top 25 nationally in the polls as well. A lot of times those guys are sometimes heavily penalized, but they also win a lot of football games. And maybe that's just because they're walking a line. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured that one out yet, and I'd like somebody to figure that one out and let me know why. But sometimes I think you really just have to focus on what you're doing and do a better job of the plays you're running, the schemes you're running, executing your assignment from play to play, and forgetting about the last one. With that many snaps, you're going to snap it 150 times in a game in college. You can't forget about. I mean, you can't be hung up on one play that you just had. If it was bad, it was bad. We got more coming. Let's be 9 out of 10. If we can be 90%, that's an A, and we like that at St. Mary. That's an academic All-American.
Not a question, more of a statement. I was amazed at the first home game, the size of the crowd. They're the most people I've ever seen at a game. So I'd like to see that continue.
Absolutely, and I've said that too, Rick. Thank you for that. And our following has gotten very, very good from the days we played at the old Lansing High School when I was suiting up, and we might have had 200 people coming out to a football game, and most of them were parents. To what we had that night, a night game out there. It was a hot day, but the evening cooled off a little bit, and the hill's full, and we estimated about 2,000, and our stadium seats 1,500. And that's what you want is a stadium that is packed, and we got that fall, and we expect it again tomorrow, and we have to do something on the field to deserve that as well, and our guys know that. Thank you. That has been one of the better parts of our program going forward, the support that we've had, and it's been very, very good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming. I'll spread the word. We'll have these throughout the semester. Put it in your calendar. Next one is October 11th. So we have down volleyball at USM and cross country. We'll speak on the 11th. Leavenworth High, we have volleyball, and Coach Vanek will speak a little bit. And then Lansing on the 11th, we'll bring volleyball and cross country as well. So we'll usually have 5 or 6 speakers. If we're missing one, we should be okay. We should hear a lot about local sports, Leavenworth County sports. Appreciate the paper being here today, and come back every week. Hopefully you get some insight to what's going on in Leavenworth County athletics. So thank you, and good night or good afternoon.